interesting day. I'm either going to hear back an update that they're looking at something. And if they are, continue to look. Thank you. Like, do what you're going to do. Order a part, order a test, do something. But there's no parts ordered. There's no tests ordered. There's no data pointing to anything. At this point, let's go. I'm going to drive it. I'll tow it again if it breaks again. And it's kind of part of my argument too, is like, if you don't feel comfortable releasing it to me, it's all the better reason that it should just be bought back. So yeah, I don't know where it's going to end up. I love the truck. I love it. I want to have it. It's a 22. It's an original. It's the first year. I like that. You know, I've paid into it a ton. So, you know, I can probably get out of it about what I owe for it, but this is going to sound bad. I don't want to sell it to somebody. Like, I don't want somebody else to get my history. Like, I'd want it to go back to a Ford dealer, and I want them to look at it more, or I want to feel comfortable keeping it. And right now I don't feel comfortable keeping it, and I would feel guilty selling it to anybody else. So I don't know what's going to come of it. It's just kind of going to have to play itself out. And that's kind of the latest, right? That's kind of where it's at. And then, you know, in the meantime, I've been driving a rental, which isn't an EV. And then Tesla, to their credit, you know, the different people in the community and whatnot, they were super cool. And they actually gave me a Cybertruck for a few days, which was pretty darn awesome. You know, I do frequent EV events in the Bay Area. This is funny. I was going to share this clip. This is my first moment taking it out the factory. You see this red barrier? Full self-driving was going to drive directly into that barrier. So this was my first couple minutes with full self-driving. So there's this red barrier there where the Cybertruck was trying to leave the parking lot of the factory. And I'm like, well, that's not going to work. I was waving at the people that had just helped me out and helped me get into the Cybertruck. And it was linked to my phone is key, the whole thing, right? They gave me carte blanche, like, take it, do whatever you want. I took it over to a ChemPower event, which was super cool. Turned Down for What and ChemPower have kind of been connected going all the way back to their opening of their factory. So that was super cool. ChemPower invited me out to the opening of their first West Coast site, which was run by Revel. And they also have locations out in the East Coast. Tom Malogny and Kyle and those guys have done videos on that. But this is the first station. It had 6 NACS connectors, 6 CCS connectors. Mayor of San Francisco was there. The mayor took a couple questions from Turned Down for What, which was super cool to be able to talk to the mayor that way. I brought the Cybertruck and was the first one to charge at the station. And so, yeah, that was, you know, I kind of just made the most of a bad situation, I guess, and kind of then I took and let the family do it. So that was super cool to be able to take and like let my wife experience it, my kids experience it. This was my wife literally doing full self-driving for the first time. It drove to her work. It drove the kids to the comic book store. It drove us to dinner. It drove us back home. So like I've got all these videos, and I'll leave links in the description. And then some people on X reached out and said, hey, you know, people get weird about this kind of thing. They don't like to watch content on Meta channels, and they don't like Google channels. People feel the opposite about X a lot. They'll be like, I won't watch anything on X. So for the rest of this week, I'll be posting some of these videos. I just posted today picking it up at the factory. Probably tomorrow or the next day, I'll post the one of my wife and the kids getting to experience it. I'll post the ChemPower thing as well. All that stuff's on YouTube as well. So yeah, I made the best of the situation. And, you know, I didn't want to roll into a ChemPower event, an electric vehicle event with the mayor of San Francisco in a gas Ford Explorer. You know, I just thought that would be bad form. So, you know, shout out to Tesla for kind of stepping up and, you know, going the extra mile and setting me up with an EV. It kind of made it, you know, at least, you know, a little bit better. So I spent, you know, better part of half of a week driving a Cybertruck around doing FSD.
So if the deal was right, what would you do? If the deal was right, kind of if the deal was right, like Pat's situation, if you had the opportunity to get into a Cybertruck, do you think you would jump, or you think you would try to stay with a Lightning?
No, I think here's the thing, man. The Cybertruck, it's all about FSD. Okay. Everything else and every other way, the Lightning it's a quieter ride. It's more practical. It's got more room in the back seat for my kids. It doesn't have the screen. My kids love the screen, being able to watch YouTube and Disney and stuff on that back screen. My son's got a great clip in one of them where he's talking about that back screen and he loved it. But there's not as much room back there. The frunk is not nearly as useful. And the big thing is, for me, with a family and being the environment that it's in, the drama that comes with it, like I usually park my Lightning on the street. I parked the Cybertruck in my driveway. I took my home video cameras. I can encircle the truck with a zone, and I had it send me alerts if anybody had any motion anywhere around it. And to have that, when you got a wife and kids and that kind of stuff that you factor into it, it's the price of it is more than the Lightning. There's not necessarily better aside from FSD. Obviously, the software, the phone is key. The FSD is years ahead of what Ford and Chevy and even Rivian are doing in a lot of ways. But when you're talking about a family and the practicality of it and the budget of it, it just doesn't make sense to go to Cybertruck as much fun as I had. So, I mean, I want to be back in a Lightning. I want to have faith in my truck, and I don't know how that's going to work out. Ford's got the employee pricing. So if it were to get bought back in time, but I don't know, that process takes time. So I don't know if it would get bought back in time for me to take advantage of employee pricing, but
here's what we'll do. If you get it back and it turns out to be a good truck, I know Pat's got the forescan stuff most likely to put an extended range battery in it. And I'm pretty sure I had a conversation with Zach, shout out Zach, where he put Blue Cruise in his. So if we could get you Blue Cruise and extended range, you're happy, right?
So my dilemma is that as part of and again, I would be remiss if I didn't say how much Ford has gone out of their way to really take care of me through these different things. I've always gotten in a loaner car. I've always had the communications team, aware of what was going on. And to their credit, they gave me an extended warranty. So it has now a 6-year, 70,000 mile warranty instead of the 3-year 36. And so it's kind of like we were talking about earlier, again, like as fun as it would be to have Blue Cruise, and I've joked for a long time about wishing I had Blue Cruise. I wouldn't modify.
You joked for years about it.
Yeah. It's my one regret, right? When you're like, what do you regret? Like the standard range is fine for me. I don't need the big battery pack,
which is just that, those are two huge things that they packaged together at the time.
You just need a blessing from Ford to allow us to do this, to add Blue Cruise, all factory, nothing aftermarket.
Right. If they gave me the blessing to do that with for the extended range battery, to make it that unicorn, right? To give it the Blue Cruise and the extended range, I'd be all in, but I'd have to have in writing that Ford engineers or somebody was going to honor the warranty afterwards. Because again, there's just been too much, right? Too much history. I don't think I've ever gone 6 months without having it at the dealer for something. And so that's the dilemma, right? I've told people it's like that toxic first girlfriend relationship, right? Where you fall in love and there's so much great about it, but it's toxic as hell, man. You're fighting, you're arguing, you're getting stuff thrown at you. You're finding your Xbox out on the front lawn. Like, all her friends and your friends are chiming in, right? Because that's what I'm hearing. Oh, you should get the Cybertruck. Oh, you should have gone with Rivian. Like, right? It's a toxic high school relationship with my truck. But you never forget that first girlfriend, right? Like, she's still on your mind. You can't stop loving her. And that's the way I am with the truck. The truck has absolutely been abusive, and yet it's the best vehicle. I've had people comment, like, I'll post something and they'll be like, didn't you just post this? And I'm like, yeah. And they're both true. They're both true. It's a toxic relationship. It's a gremlin truck, and I love it to death. And what do I do? It is the drama of
you have
the vehicle.
Stockholm syndrome, Chris.
I do.
There's a nice truck here at Cleveland Copart West with Blue Cruise and phone as the key.
Hey, I have one here too.
All the updates.
Nice star white metallic.
No issues.
You don't have to worry about warranty.
Yeah.
Hey, out of curiosity, Chris, when you're having these issues, have you checked the surface charge, the surface voltage of the 12 volt?
Yeah, so I did get an OBD2 scanner. Martin actually helped me with that as well, and I've got it's even better now because the what's that scanner app called? I keep forgetting.
Car scanner. Yeah.
Car scanner now even shows up on the screen, and so yeah, a couple times I would check it. The state of charge was really low. The percentage was like 40-50% state of charge. The voltage was low. It was below 12 volts. It was like 11 point something volts. But then on other occasions, like this very last one, where I went in and tried to clear the codes and look at the state of charge was over 13 volts. That's what was really weird about this last one is we tried to jump it with a truck. We tried to jump it with the battery box that the tow truck driver had. My scanner showed it over 13 volts. And what was really weird, and it didn't show up well on the video, I don't think, but I was with Martin. I had disconnected my 12 volt battery completely. Both black and red wires were completely disconnected. The truck was still on. The screens were still on. The taillight was still on. Where was it getting 12 volts? Where was it getting power?
Your DC to DC still active.
See,
right, but there shouldn't have been a path. They should have disconnected everything. Even then, I've never had one where I just go 12 volt, all that stays on.
Yeah,
I shorted somewhere.
I've actually seen that where you've actually had to pull the fireman's loop to disable it.
Yeah, I think Martin was going to ask. He was at one point. He was like, I think he was going to have you do
that.
Yeah, and I was like, I just wanted to leave it as it was. It was weird because the headlights were on, but the light bar was off. The tail light was on. The screens were on, and there was no 12 volt battery connected to this thing. And I'm like, this is the craziest thing I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, the DC converter still will put power out, but I've just never seen it. Pat, you say you've seen it where the converter will still provide power to the truck even with the battery disconnected.
Yeah, I've seen it happen a couple of times now. So I wanted to put this out there. The other trucks that we have that have a bunch of aftermarket upfitter equipment for lights, the stock AGM was trash.
What's AGM?
Absorbed glass matte battery, the factory battery that's actually in
Got it.
We did a lithium swap on them.
Yeah, I'm going to do that next.
I'm sorry?
Man, that's not a bad idea for you, Chris. Like,
so here, Martin's talked about this with me as well, but here's my fear, right? Is that I go back to Ford with another problem, and they're like, "Oh, look, you've got the ohm battery in there. You got a lithium battery."
You swap them real quick, and you put the OEM 12 volt in there, and you say, "I don't know what you're talking about." I mean, I don't know. I think you can. I think what you should do, I think what you were talking about earlier is especially if you want it this weekend, I would absolutely take a spare 12 volt, and then you can have peace of mind. I think at least, hopefully with at least being able to get it somewhere.
That's the plan.
Here's the thing. If you get it back, Chris, and you've got your 12 volt disconnected and you got a spare one, you can always pull that fireman's loop, which is underneath that left panel. It's a little green switch. It's easy to do. It takes a couple of seconds, let it reset. And then you've got your car scanner app to clear your codes. You've got the bases pretty much covered as if it's anything you can fix there without having FDRS and start getting into electrical problems.
Yeah, so stay tuned, right? Like I'll post it when I get stranded. I'll be like, "Hey, who lives in the middle of Needles, California, or who lives in the middle of Arizona? Supposed to be going to the Grand Canyon. I may have to camp out at the Grand Canyon. Who knows, right? It's hopefully not, but
well, you're just stay there. I'm only about 2 months behind you, and I'll stop and pick you up.
Come and pick up the family. Yeah, and the thing was, it's a real dilemma, right? Because we started talking as a family, like, what do we do? Do we just book airfare now and just fly out there? But that's last minute booking is incredibly expensive for a family. And once I land, I'm going to have to rent a rental car. And if I'm going to rent a rental car and spend all that money on a rental car, then I might as well risk it for the biscuit, man. Let's drive the truck. Let's make it die. That's my thing. That's my perspective, right? Is that sitting around does nothing. Like, let's drive it. Let's break it. It's either going to break or it's not. It's either fixed or it's not. It's got a problem or it doesn't. And if let's make it clear that it's been resolved, or let's make it clear that it needs to be bought back, and let's put it in a position to fail. And it either does or it doesn't. And it's and if it does, then I get it towed to a Ford dealer in the middle of the desert somewhere. I get an Uber for my family. We rent a car, which we would have had to do anyway. And then I see if Ford can reimburse me for that rental. And it's going to make for great content. I'll get another 1 million views as I'm stranded in the desert and everybody is tagging everybody. Hey,
Chris is in the here.
Right. And the thing is, and I'll be honest, like I brought this up all the way back to last year. So last year before my trip, it had problems again, the one where it was stranded at work. And I brought up the topic. I said, hey, should we look at a buyback? And it wasn't it wasn't done. Let's just say that. And so here we are again, so I'm always stuck in the middle here of trying to I never want to come across unappreciative or that I don't like the truck, because I do. But I also want to be transparent with what I put out there. And I want people to trust me when I say this is a great truck and an amazing truck. And there's people like Patrick who have driven this thing for 100,000 miles, and people like Martin who have rebuilt this thing half a dozen times, and people like Jace and his partner who use this as a business constantly. People like Sergio who've driven it across the country. People like, Joe Schultz that's, and Matt who have towed huge trailers behind it. I want them to authentically know that I mean it when I say this is an amazing truck. And I want them to know that despite all of what I've seen and despite all of what I've experienced, I still think it's an amazing truck. But I don't want to be, and I think we know people on X, for example, that are feel this way about other brands, where they will just only put the positive, right? They won't ever critique the parts of the brand that don't function and don't work. And I just don't want to be that guy. So I don't want to be the guy that comes across that I'm not appreciative at all of everything Ford has done, because they've done tremendous things for me, more than I ever deserved or ever could imagine would have happened for me in my life. My life has changed because of the truck and because of things Ford has done for me. That said, I think I lose all credibility if I don't transparently put the things that I experience and the things that are happening to the truck at the same time.
No, absolutely. You got to be honest and truthful, and you got to tell your story. Like, that's just the bottom line. And you're taking a lot of flack for it, though. I get it, though. You've got a lot of opinions and a lot of people screaming at you, and I think you're doing the right thing. That you got to tell your story honestly, and hope that Ford, in good faith, helps you out.
Yep.
Yeah, and Tony Pham, shout out to Tony Pham, by the way. For those that don't know, we were talking about the frunk earlier. Tony Pham is the one that makes the What the Frunk that goes into my front area that has the speakers and the light up and all that kind of stuff. And the dude's just an absolute genius. He makes the he makes the Quick Bandit license plate. You were talking about not wanting the license plate, Jace, on the front of your truck. I'm trying to get Tony to make a Quick Bandit for the Ford Lightning so that you can, because in California you're supposed to have one.
Yeah.
I currently don't have a license plate on mine. I'm just, as you can tell by me wanting to pick up a truck and drive it 1,000 miles, I'm not a risk averse person.
Yeah.
I knew I'll go with the risk. So I've left the front license plate off of my Lightning after it got fixed on one of my other previous occasions where it needed to be fixed. They had to take apart the entire, front area, the entire cab. If nobody's ever seen those pictures, they're quite dramatic. Like everything in the front cab has been dramatic for me, not for maybe Martin, who takes these things apart for a living.
Sorry, Chris.
So it's so Tony, it's funny because both Tony and Patrick mentioned the DC to DC, and part of me wonders if the DC to DC is part of the problem here, because it's almost like the DC to DC isn't keeping the 12-volt battery properly charged and properly where it needs to be. Because, dude, my truck was sitting in front of my house. It wasn't doing anything. There was nothing plugged into it when it died last time. Something's not right on that. I feel like on the DC to DC.
Yeah.
I think we should probably have another conversation about that, because that was the issue with my Silverado EV killing the 12 volt. Right. So stuff would stay on, and the DC to DC had it will adjust charge and amperage output based on draw. I will say this though, because I wanted to, before I lost my train of thought. My dumb self, I drove that Lightning from South Florida across the country, down California, into Baja California, Mexico, and back.
I think that's awesome. I'm totally on board for the crazy road trips and the love of the drive. I think that's great. That's what these trucks are
My
meant to do.
Canadian trip was an hour and a half north of the northernmost charger in Ontario. Hell with it, I'm going.
Yeah, we want to try to do UP this summer/fall. We're going to try to do that.
Yeah. Well, speaking of that,
I was gonna say I like doing these things too, and I know Martin, you're gonna like talk about your road trip coming up. I like to do these road trips too because I want to show that EVs are great road tripping vehicles, and
it just takes a little bit of planning.
Yep. And hey, Mike the Car Geek joining us.
Much less planning than we used to have now. I mean, I used to spend like a week planning a trip. I'd have triple, KOA stops planned behind the fast chargers. Now it's 15 minutes, and if it says Tesla, I don't even question it.
Mm-hmm.
The main thing I'm looking at now is wind, and if I want to charge at a hotel charger or not. That's really the two biggest things. So. But yeah, before we're about 6 or 7 minutes from our 2-hour limit, I wouldn't mind sharing what has transitioned here and kind of tell everybody, so everybody who follows our channel and has seen me talk about the charge while driving, that's still coming. We're still working on it. We didn't give up, and you will see more info on that soon. So if you're wanting more information on that, you're welcome to message me on Facebook or whatever, and we can talk. But it's coming. We're working on it, making good headway there. So that's coming soon. Man, a lot's happened in the last 2 weeks. That's part of what was going on, and I couldn't barely be here last Thursday because I was getting ready for a trip on Friday morning, and we ended up buying another Lightning for the channel. So. Sam on the Facebook group had wrecked his truck a couple of months ago, and he kind of slid off the road on some snowy banks when we had all that snow and messed up the left side. Very similar to yours.
I was going to ask you, how he did it. Okay.
Yeah.
The charge port came off on his too, huh?
Yep. That's pretty common. It's just a plastic. There's four tabs that pop those in. They pop out pretty easy. This truck runs and drives. Besides the charge door showing that it's open, I drove it, 10 miles so far down to my buddy's house. We pulled the plastic off of it, and it drives, but it's kind of a little bit of a unicorn, 23 XLT extended range, 10,000 miles. Yeah. It's got just a killer sound system. He spent, I don't know how many thousands of dollars upgrading the sound. Got two 12-inch subs under the back. I mean, it's pretty sweet, but it's a kind of a, and it's got that unicorn tag bracket on the front. Jace, you're welcome to have that.
Oh, they had mine in the truck. I threw that thing in the trash so fast.
Yeah. So anyway, maybe the plan, Martin, is I just bring my truck to Kansas. You take my entire body and put it on the frame of that truck.
How about I just trade you out? How about I take your Lariat and I'll make it my mule truck, and you can take this XLT. It's got leather in it. He put leather in it. And it's got a tonneau cover. It's really a nice truck. And I drove it around a little bit. I tell you what I miss, and I'm not a sunroof guy. I do kind of miss in Kansas weather, not in Pat's weather, the sunroof, even though we have the retractable. So that's nice on the Lariats, on the Lightning. And not having Blue Cruise, it will be a thing, but I'm not really in Blue Cruise area. But I got addicted to that big screen. And even though people say it's just the same width, it is smaller. I like the Lariat screen, and I didn't think I would ever say that, because having buttons and knobs is nice in this XLT to be able to just hit a quick couple buttons and your AC's up or down. You don't have to figure out where to turn the knob. The AC knobs is my biggest complaint about the Lariat screen, but it's minor compared to everything else. But so we bought this truck, had to run to St. Louis. I did 700 miles in one day towing with a Lightning. So I don't want to hear this BS that you can't do this anymore. Yes, you'll stop more. We all know that broken record, but it can do it. And it did it wonderfully. And I did it with a extended range, non-max tow. So there is no problem towing this much weight with a non-max tow. Now, if I get in a super high heat, it's running 75, 80 degrees that day. If I get a 100, 105 degree day, it might make a different story, but I ran 75 mile an hour on cruise, no problem. So yeah, that happened with us. We went and got that last Friday. So you'll see the build coming up. We're going to do a whole side. This truck will be done. And that's actually probably, unless I decide to sell my Lariat and move into this one, this truck will be for sale. And I think it's going to be in that 30 grand range for a 10,000 mile 23. So pretty affordable truck. So, and then the other one that we're going to have coming up that I bought is just another, I'm not necessarily a Tesla fan or any of that stuff. You guys know that I'm a Ford nut, but we bought this car. This will be our fourth Tesla. These legacy Model S's are so intriguing because they're cheap. I mean, I think I paid $1,500 for one, $2,000 for the next one. We've got one of them done, finished it, sent it to Texas. The second one I'm putting a quarter on right now. But this car came up this week and we bought it for $5,000. This is a 15.
That's awesome.
Got 31,000 miles on this car. Wow. It looks brand new. They say hit in the rear. I honestly haven't seen it in person yet. But I can't see anything wrong with it. So we'll get it in and find out. I have a trip coming up next week. I'll shout out to Paul up at TesX in Iowa. He's the Tesla guy. I gotten to know him, and he's super nice. If you ever have a Tesla problem and you need to have your battery worked on at this point in time, ship it to Paul. But I'm going to his shop next week to take one of my bad batteries and my good batteries up, and we're going to learn. He's willing to teach me, because I have an EV shop, how to repair Tesla batteries. So we're going to pull the battery out of this one, take it up, pull the modules out, do all the diagnostic, get it going, get it back together. And so that I can actually start doing full-on EV repair batteries on Teslas, and hopefully I'd like to do the older Model S's, because you're starting to see those out of warranty. That's the thing for the aftermarket EV space. There's not a lot of people doing it because the cars are mostly still under warranty. But these legacy Teslas aren't. I mean, they're getting out there with a lot of miles on them, and they have some issues, and you kind of have to have some specialty tooling to do it. So anyway, that's the gist of what we've been up to. And I'm going to have another, I'll try to post as I go next week. It's going to be probably 1,500 miles round trip from Kansas up to northern Iowa. It's supposed to be a 25-mile headwind going and a 25-mile headwind coming back when I come. So yeah, that'll be fun, but low trailer with a lot of weight. I'm going to have 2 Tesla batteries on my trailer. So that'll be an interesting heavyweight trip, but not the wind. So we'll see what kind of mileage we get out of that. But I'm thinking it'll be, probably going to get 1.2, 1.3 like I always do with that trailer. That's just typical with that trailer. So anyhow, that's the 99-cent nickel tour of Martin rebuilds for the next couple of months. So
I love it.
Yeah, just some late breaking news. You were talking earlier about the Cybertruck and if the deal was right and whatnot. Well, they had just talked about in the Middle East. They're ahead of us in time zones, and so they had announced that there's the single motor, which is actually the one that I reserved. I reserved the single motor. But back when I reserved it, it was like the Lightning Pro, right? It was a $40,000 single motor truck.
$39,995.
Right. So, shout out to Gregor Truck, who just kind of posted this and was showing this is the North American pricing. So, they're calling it the long range. The long range is a single motor, a little bit more range, like 25 extra miles of range. Less towing capacity, 0 to 60 down to 6.2 seconds.
6.2. Whoa.
Yeah, right. So it's a big drop, and
that's still fast for a truck.
It is.
Yeah,
it is.
Bad, but that's
I think the Leaf can outrun that 0 to 60.
Sure. Yeah, but you take a 2.7 EcoBoost, that's about the same.
Wait, now, a 2.7 EcoBoost?
They're about the same. Maybe a little less. Mid to high fives.
But I do like that there's a $10,000 difference between the all-wheel drive, and there's just different. We'll see. I obviously haven't looked into this at all yet, but and this is with the rebate, right? This is including the tax rebate. So you're really talking about $70,000 and $80,000 on these 2 trucks. I'm not even considering the Cyber Beast. My opinion, I don't know why anybody would buy the Cyber Beast. Like everything I've heard about it, the tri-motor. It's front wheel drive bias. It makes clunking sounds. It does all this kind of I don't know why the Cyber Beast is unnecessary to me. The better value is the all-wheel drive or the long range. But I think the rumor is the long range is not going to have the air suspension, and it's going to have a couple. It's not going to have the rear screen, and so they may or may not have the tonneau cover. They're looking for ways to kind of reduce the price. The towing capacity is less, that kind of stuff. But for me, for the way I drive it as a family vehicle, that is the spec I would go with. But again, when I reserved it, it was a $40,000 price. Yeah. Now you're looking at, after the rebate, you're looking at 62.
To be fair, Chris, inflation from when they started building this truck to now on everything. Sure. I mean, Lightnings were supposed to be cheaper, way cheaper.
Yeah,
but I will say that some people did buy their Lightning Pro at $39,995. I know people that did.
Yep.
And then
Ford,
Pat's over here going,
Ford did sell them for that price, and GM, in my opinion, did not do that.
So
yeah,
I had price protection on my Lightning.
Yep.
And Pat's over here with a $44,000, LT. Now he's sitting pretty.
Hey, I went through hell and back for that.
Yes, you did. You worked for it. I didn't say you didn't.
Hey, well, I'm hoping it all works out, man. I mean, Patrick, it turned out to work in your favor. Jace, not that you'd ever want to wish a bump on the head on anybody, but all things considered, you came out, okay. And that's my hope, right? Is that, again, for the money, to me, you can go and get a Lightning that to me is every bit, if not better.
Yeah, I mean, I was just looking at 2025 just to see the build and price. So can you pull that up again? What was it? 62 what?
6250 basically. Yeah.
Yeah. So just for the 2025, you're at like 6261 for the XLT standard range battery. So yeah,
you lose a lot of range on that one though.
Yeah, you would lose a lot of range for sure.
I've seen guys buying flashes for 55 to 58.
That was my thought.
You can find them easy, but not necessarily right this second with, now that we've switched to 2020. But yes, I mean, we got a platinum.
Like that, you couldn't find one. You wanted a flash. That was your go-to.
Yeah, that's the other
go-to. So the flash is right in the zone. The only thing about the flash I wish they did is put phone as a key in the flash. Is a tech-oriented trim that they sell it as, it should come with phone as a key.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you there. So
Blue Cruise, they depackaged it from Blue Cruise. It was even more of a blow since it was a depackaging. I think.
Unless you're coming from a Tesla, the guys who are buying the flash aren't necessarily coming from something that didn't have a fob. So you just got to carry a fob. You know what I mean? But I hear you, Chris. After doing it, I ain't carried a fob in a year.
I know. I carried one in 4+ now. It's crazy.
Chris, are you phone as a key or no? I can't remember.
No, it was that's all part of the package that I didn't opt for.
Package with Blue Cruise on the standard range.
Yeah, 511. Yeah.
But I don't. I mean, maybe it's one of those things like Blue Cruise where I would, if I had it, I would be like, oh, I gotta have this.
Yeah, I didn't think I'd ever use a massaging seat.
Yeah, right.
I was wrong.
I love the deal you got, Jace. You got a great deal.
It Max Pro. I mean, it's got everything that it's just optioned with it. We really needed Pro Power, not needed, but we really wanted Pro Power too because we spent $5,000 to put in the transfer switch this year. We could use Justin Struck, but if he's gone and I had a standard range or extended range Lariat in there without Pro Power, I would have been so sad that I couldn't plug the house in. I mean, that would have just sucked.
Well, that's the same way. One thing. This truck I bought too. This XLT would be the reason why I would go for it. Is it has Pro Power? It's got a lot of options for an XLT ER, and they don't make those anymore. I mean, that's basically a flash now.
Yep. Literally
doesn't have the big screen. But...
Yep.
Yeah.
We've covered
61 for a 2025 XLT. You get dual motor, obviously, but you're losing a lot of range. Very, very interesting. Very, very interesting. So what's the tow package on that? Would be
7,500.
That's on that. What's on this then? Would this be, I guess, 55 or 5,000? 5,000, I think it
5,000. But again, for me, I don't tow. So
sorry, guys, I got to bail.
Oh, you're good.
Yeah,
we're over. I got to go too. Thanks, Pat, for coming on.
We've covered a lot of territory.
Thanks for having me.
We did. Thanks.
Wrap us
good
up,
to see you.
Send us home, buddy.
Yep. Sounds good. Hey, everybody, thanks for joining tonight. Tech Charge. We're gonna do another episode next week. If I can join, I'm gonna be up at that battery repair facility. So if not, you might just see Chris and Jace. But otherwise, everybody, thanks for joining tonight, and we will talk to you guys next week on Turn Down for What Tech Charged.
Thanks, guys.
Good night, everyone.